Okay. I wake up, right? And I'm moving slightly off the bed. And everything's going like this.
What if I told you that one of the greatest rock guitarists in American history was once a college dropout, who used music not only to escape his pain, but to conquer the world? This is the untold story of Joe Walsh, the man whose wild energy electrified the Eagles and whose raw talent helped redefine American rock and roll forever. But behind the fame, guitars, and platinum records lies a battle most people never saw coming. Joe Walsh is not just a guitarist, singer, or songwriter. He's a living legend, a musical force who helped shape the golden era of classic rock. From his explosive solos with the James Gang to his unforgettable anthems with the Eagles, Joe's career spans decades of groundbreaking artistry, personal chaos, and reinvention. He's a Grammy winner, a rock and roll Hall of Famer, and a man who turned personal demons into powerful anthems. But what really makes his story worth telling is what he survived and how he transformed every setback into an unforgettable comeback. Joseph Fiedler Walsh was born on November 20th, 1947, in Wichita, Kansas, to Robert Newton Fiedler and Helen Louise Walsh. His father, a flight instructor for the U.S. Air Force, died in a tragic plane crash when Joe was just a baby, a loss that would silently echo through much of his life. Later adopted by his stepfather and taking his last name, Walsh, Joe moved with his family across the country before finally settling in Columbus, Ohio, where his love for music began to take shape. Even as a kid, Joe was different. Quirky, intensely curious, and always drawn to sound. He once said he felt like he was born with a guitar in his hands. And by the time he hit high school, his obsession with rock music was impossible to miss. But it wasn't just talent. Joe had this magnetic, offbeat personality, equal parts genius and joker. He was the guy who could crack a room up with a wild joke, then leave everyone speechless with a mind-blowing guitar solo. From day one, music wasn't just a hobby. It was his escape, his language, and his identity. But what early experiences shaped this remarkable journey, and how did a young boy from Kansas begin his climb to rock immortality? Behind the stage lights and legendary solos, Joe Walsh's personal life has been a journey filled with deep love, painful loss, and emotional growth. He's been married 5 times, but it was his 5th marriage in 2008 to Marjorie Bach, the sister of Barbara Bach, Ringo Starr's wife, that brought a deep sense of stability to his life. Together, they've kept a relatively low profile, enjoying a quieter, more peaceful chapter. But Joe's family story isn't without heartbreak. In 1974, his daughter Emma Kristen Walsh, from his then-wife Stephanie Rhodes, tragically died in a car accident at just 3 years old. Joe has said that losing Emma changed him forever. He even dedicated the song "Song for Emma," a hauntingly beautiful tribute that revealed a side of Joe few ever saw. Joe also has other children and has spoken about the challenges of balancing fame and fatherhood, especially during the wild years of his career. Over time, though, those relationships became more grounded, more real. Today, family is a key anchor in his life, helping him maintain sobriety and emotional peace after decades of chaos. So how did these personal roots and painful memories pave the way for Joe's artistic brilliance, and what was his early life really like? Joe Walsh's early life was anything but ordinary. After his father's tragic death in a plane crash, Joe's mother, a classically trained pianist, raised him with music in the air and resilience in his blood. By the time Joe was a teen, the family had moved to Montclair, New Jersey, and then to Columbus, Ohio, where he spent much of his formative years. He didn't exactly fit the mold. Joe had attention deficit disorder, which made traditional school tough, but when he picked up a guitar, everything clicked. Music gave him structure, focus, and a way to express himself in a world that often felt too loud. Joe once said, "Music was my only friend for a long time." And that friend led him to join his first band, in high school, the Nomads. It wasn't glamorous, but it lit a fire. He obsessed over guitar legends, like Chuck Berry and Eric Clapton, mimicking their riffs late into the night. His eccentric, almost comedic personality began to emerge too. He was that kid who could play a mean solo, then make everyone laugh seconds later. A class clown with a Fender Stratocaster. Growing up in the 60s, with the Cultural Revolution unfolding around him, Joe soaked it all in: protest music, blues, psychedelia, and it all found its way into the raw, soul-bending sound he would later become known for. But how did this rebellious teenager with a guitar become a rock legend? Let's dive into his education and the path that started it all. Joe Walsh's journey into music didn't just happen in smoky bars or garage bands. It actually started in a college classroom. He attended Kent State University in Ohio, majoring in English and minoring in music. But truthfully, Joe wasn't there to become a scholar. He was chasing a sound, his sound. And it was at Kent State that things really took off. He joined a local band called the Measles, where his guitar skills began turning heads. But it wasn't all music and excitement. Joe was also a witness to one of the darkest moments in American history, the Kent State shootings in 1970, where 4 students were killed by the National Guard during an anti-war protest. Joe later said, "The tragedy had a profound effect on him and fueled his desire to speak through music instead of politics." Shortly after, he dropped out to go full-time with what would become his breakout band, the James Gang. With Joe on lead guitar and vocals, the group's raw energy exploded onto the rock scene. Their song, Funk Number 49, became a radio staple: wild, unapologetic, and pure Joe Walsh. This wasn't just another garage band making noise. This was the beginning of something big. Joe had officially stepped into the spotlight. So what were the moments that truly launched Joe Walsh into rock superstardom, and how did he end up joining one of the biggest bands in history? Joe Walsh didn't just play guitar, he shredded it into legend. After making waves with the James Gang, Joe launched a solo career that gave us unforgettable tracks like Rocky Mountain Way in 1973. The song wasn't just a hit, it became an anthem, showcasing his signature slide guitar and laid-back yet gritty vibe. But the biggest leap of his career came in 1975, when he joined none other than the Eagles. And here's where the legend truly took flight. His first album with the band, Hotel California. Yes, that album. Joe's hard-edged guitar gave the Eagles a new rock identity. His iconic solo on the title track is still considered one of the greatest guitar moments in music history. From there, it was one hit after another: Life in the Fast Lane, In the City, Pretty Maids, all in a row. Joe's fingerprints are all over the golden era of American rock. Beyond the band, his solo albums kept hitting. But seriously, folks, and The Smoker You Drink, The Player You Get, are still celebrated by critics and fans alike. He's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the Eagles, and is widely hailed as one of the most innovative and influential guitarists of all time. With such a massive impact on rock music, what kind of fortune and influence has Joe Walsh built over the decades? With a career spanning over 5 decades, Joe Walsh has not only carved out a legacy in rock and roll, he's built a serious financial empire along the way. As of 2024, Joe Walsh's estimated net worth is around $75 million. And while that number is impressive, it's not just from sold-out concerts or record sales. Joe's wealth has come from a mix of multi-platinum albums, world tours with the Eagles, some of which rank among the highest-grossing tours of all time, and his solo career success. Let's not forget licensing royalties from hits like Life's Been Good and Rocky Mountain Way, which continue to feature in movies, commercials, and sports broadcasts. He's also ventured into television, making appearances on shows like The Drew Carey Show and The Voice, adding a dose of pop culture charm to his brand. In addition, Joe has remained active behind the scenes as a producer and collaborator with artists like Ringo Starr and Foo Fighters. But beyond the dollars, his impact is immeasurable. Joe's fusion of bluesy riffs with psychedelic rock helped redefine guitar playing in the 70s. His influence still echoes in today's rock, country rock, and jam band scenes. So with all that success and wealth, how does Joe Walsh actually live, and what passions fuel his life off stage? For a man who rocked some of the biggest stadiums in the world, Joe Walsh lives a surprisingly grounded, and at times, quirky life off stage. While he enjoys the spoils of success, including a stunning property in Beverly Hills and classic American muscle cars, Joe's lifestyle is far from showy. He's more about soulful vibes than flashy headlines. Joe is a proud collector of vintage guitars, some valued in the hundreds of thousands, and he's known to spend hours tinkering in his home studio. His love for analog gear and old-school sound systems is legendary among audiophiles. In fact, Joe's the kind of guy who would rather talk tape machines than Teslas. What's more inspiring is his commitment to sobriety. After decades of battling addiction, Joe has been clean and sober since the 1990s. He often speaks about recovery, mental health, and how sobriety gave him his life and creativity back. Outside music, Joe has a deep passion for philanthropy. He founded VetsAid, a nonprofit that supports veterans and military families through concerts and awareness campaigns. It's a cause close to his heart, given his own family's military ties. But even with all these layers, there's still more to Joe Walsh than meets the eye. So what are some surprising facts and little-known stories that make him truly unforgettable? Joe Walsh isn't just a rock legend. He's a walking, talking archive of wild stories, surprising twists, and unforgettable moments. For starters, did you know that Joe once ran for president of the United States in 1980? Yep. His campaign slogan, "Free gas for everyone." While it was a satirical run, it showcased Joe's signature mix of humor and rebellion. And get this, he's Ringo Starr's brother-in-law. Joe married Marjorie Bach, sister of Barbara Bach, who is married to the Beatles drummer. That makes for some seriously rock and roll family dinners. He's also a pop culture icon. Joe's voice and music have been featured in everything from The Simpsons to Rick and Morty. In fact, many fans may not even realize that the riff they've had stuck in their heads for years probably came from one of his solos. But beneath the fame and funny stories, Joe is deeply reflective. In interviews, he's admitted that for years, he didn't understand how truly influential he was. It wasn't until fans began sharing how his music helped them through dark times that he fully realized his impact. Joe Walsh is more than an Eagles guitarist. He's a survivor, a satirist, a soul with scars, and a storyteller who turned his chaos into anthems we'll never forget. From wild presidential campaigns to iconic guitar riffs, Joe Walsh has lived a life that's anything but ordinary. But what's next in this incredible journey? And there you have it, Joe Walsh. A guitar genius, a rock rebel, a man who turned chaos into creativity and left a legacy louder than any amplifier. But wait, if you thought Joe's story was wild, you have to see what Keith Richards is up to in 2025. From outrageous luxury to unexpected life choices, it's jaw-dropping. Do you think Joe Walsh is the top guitarist in the world? And what piece of Joe Walsh music is your favorite? Drop your answer in the comments section. Best response gets a shout out in our next video. And don't forget to click the video on your screen right now to dive into the unbelievable lifestyle of Keith Richards in 2025. Trust me, you won't believe what he's doing today. Hit that play button. We'll see you there.